I am not a historian, but neither are you. So, how about we the people learn this stuff together? Welcome to US 101. Yes, what do you guys think? Brand new tattoo. I actually got this done in England. Yes, I had a British man tattoo "We the People" on the arm of an American in Great Britain. Classic. Is the President of the United States above the law? If you're a rational thinking person, my guess is you would probably say no. But then our president, Donald J. Trump, has never really been described as rational thinking. If you're completely unaware as to what I'm talking about, guys, why don't you go ahead and take a look at this tweet that our president put out on June 4th of this year. As has been stated by numerous legal scholars, I have the absolute right to pardon myself. But why would I do that when I have done nothing wrong? So let's recap. Trump made it absolutely clear that he has done nothing wrong. Yet, he does have the right to pardon himself just in case, anything happens to be found out. Mr. President, if you did nothing wrong, then why even bring it up? Why even talk about pardoning yourself unless you got something to hide? Mr. President, you hiding something from us? You wanna spill the beans a little bit about something you might want to tell us, baby? And as always, when Trump tweets something that's, let's say, absurd, the media naturally gravitates towards it. They spend hours, sometimes days, covering it. And in this case, legal scholars were brought out the woodwork to determine whether or not the president could actually give himself a pardon. And we will get to that later in the episode. But this tweet kind of inspired me to go ahead and take it and turn it into a teachable moment and spend time talking to you guys about presidential pardons. How does a presidential pardon work? Why the president gets to pardon people, some of the more famous pardons that presidents have done over American history, and so on and so forth. And to begin our episode, we've got to take it back to a document that by now we should all be very familiar with, the Constitution. Article 2, Section 2 of the document states the following. The president shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. Now, let's make it clear from the outset, guys. The words reprieve and pardon appear in that sentence. Now, a reprieve is not a pardon. A reprieve is basically kind of like a delay, like a stay, if you will. If someone is on death row and they're about to be executed, the president can issue a reprieve toward that person, meaning, okay, let's just put the pause button on, just pull it back a little bit, you ain't got to kill him yet. And then a pardon is basically pushing the reset button on someone's life. So let's say someone's in jail, the president can go ahead and go, you know what? All is forgiven, we're okay, we're all good, come on out. That person can go ahead, waltz right out of jail, and go on trying to live their best life. And I tell you what, man, pardoning people, granting reprieves and all that with basically just a wave of their hand seems like a pretty powerful, power for someone to wield, right? Well, if you want to go ahead and blame someone for defending the commander-in-chief's ability to grant this type of mercy, you can go ahead and blame your favorite founding father, Alexander Hamilton. In Federalist Paper number 74, Hamilton wrote that, quote, without an easy access to exceptions in favor of unfortunate guilt, justice would wear a countenance too sanguinary and cruel. Let me go ahead and clean up that flowery language for you real quick. In that sentence, guys, A. Ham is basically saying that the executive branch should have the right to pardon people because it serves as a check against the judicial branch. If someone is wrongfully imprisoned, they can be forgiven. Furthermore, Hamilton suggested that the power to pardon people should only be vested in one person instead of an entire body of people, like the entire Congress, because it granted that person a sense of responsibility to treat pardons with, quote, scrupulousness and caution. But let's go back to that clause real quick, Article 2, Section 2. Again, it says that the president has the right to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States except in cases of impeachment, which means two things. First, offenses against the United States, which means the president can only grant pardons or reprieves to anyone that's committed a federal crime. If someone's committed a crime on the state level, a pardon is most likely going to come from the governor of that state. And secondly, pardons can only be issued except in cases of impeachment, which means the president cannot issue a pardon to stop someone from being impeached. Now, I assume that most of us that are somewhat familiar with U.S. history are aware of the fact that President Gerald Ford pardoned President Richard Nixon following his resignation from office, which stemmed from the Watergate scandal.
A full, free, and absolute pardon unto Richard Nixon.
But there have been some other pretty interesting pardons that were issued by presidents throughout our history. For example, in 1868, Christmas Day to be in fact, President Andrew Johnson gave anybody that was a Confederate soldier a gift by issuing basically a blanket pardon saying that anyone that fought for the Confederate side during the Civil War was forgiven. President Benjamin Harrison pardoned the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for practicing polygamy. JFK pardoned anybody that was a first-time offender of the Narcotics Control Act of 1956. Jimmy Carter went ahead and pardoned everybody that dodged the Vietnam War draft. And President Bill Clinton went ahead and pardoned his own brother, Roger Clinton, for possession of cocaine, which put him in jail for 1 year. And then, of course, there is the ceremonial pardoning of the Thanksgiving turkey during the Thanksgiving holiday, which is done at the White House because humor, I guess. So now let's get to the tweet that inspired this episode. The tweet that has been on many people's minds over the past week or so. Can the president issue himself a pardon? The answer is, yeah, I guess. I mean, it doesn't say he can't in the Constitution. However, it's not really a good look. And in the history of the United States, it's never been done before. Never has a sitting president decided to go ahead and pardon themselves. Although, when Nixon was in all that hot water surrounding the Watergate scandal, his lawyers did tell him, yeah, you could actually go ahead and pardon yourself because the Constitution doesn't say you can't do it. But Nixon decided not to do that. Because again, doesn't put you in the very best light. But then later, in 1974, a memo appeared from the Justice Department Office of Legal Counsel, which stated the following. It said, quote, "Under the fundamental rule that no one may be a judge in his own case, the president cannot pardon himself," end quote. Even Trump's lawyer, let me rephrase that. Even Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, said that if Trump tried to pardon himself, it would probably lead to an impeachment. So again, I ask you, Mr. President, if you've got nothing to hide, if you've done nothing wrong, why would you go ahead and pardon yourself, Donnie? Huh? And that is it for this episode of US 101, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Really do appreciate it. It feels amazing to be back in front of the camera and talking to you guys about American history. It warms the very cockles of my little heart. As always, guys, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, all those links down below in the description box. Get involved with US 101 on the social media front. Guys, I will see you next week for an all-new episode of Us 101. Until then, I am all done. Do you like it? Let me know what you think of it. I think it's cool. I think it's awesome. And the fact that like I'm going to have this tattoo and all these other tattoos when I'm a high school teacher or a college professor, I think this is going to give me a little bit of cred with my students. I think I'd be a cool teacher with the ink. I'm not, again, I think it'd be awesome. I think it'd be awesome.